light on the future prospects, how the year 2021 is going to be like. Obviously, when we talk about the relationship between Pakistan and India, over a period of time, it hasn't been the same. Rather, this has been the worst time when the two countries, they are facing each other under a lot of issues. Today we'll be talking about the prospects of Pakistan-India relations in 2021. Will year 2021 bring a new era in Pakistan-India ties? Obviously, this is what still needs to be seen. Number two, we'll be talking about India's siege of the illegally Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and state-sponsored terrorism has to end. World powers and United Nations need to play its responsibility in resolving Kashmir conflict. Number three, we'll be talking about BJP's government is using National Investigation Agency, which is NIA, as a coercive tool to suppress the voice of pro-freedom Kashmiri leaders. Asiya Andarabi, the chairperson of Dukhrane-Millat, is imprisoned in India since 2018. We'll also be talking about Modi's government's policies towards Pakistan need to be viewed in context of RSS anti-Muslim and Hindu nationalist agenda. And finally, we will also be talking about what can Pakistan expect from the US under the new Joe Biden's administration. US and UN must not turn a blind eye to India's state terrorism in the illegally Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So primarily, these are the major points we'll be focusing on, we'll be throwing light on. And to talk about that, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio, on my right is Waqas Naseem Saab, leader Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf from AJK. Thank you very much, Waqas Naseem Saab. And we also have with us Shahid M.J. Kiani, senior diplomat, Ambassador Saab. Thank you very much for your time, sir. Thank you very much for taking out the time and talking to PTV World also. And we'll be also talking to Dr. Munas Ahmed Saab. He's an expert on foreign affairs, international relations, and he's going to join us on the telephone in a little while. But let me put my first question to you, Waqas Naseem Saab. Now, let me put the last question first regarding Joe Biden's administration. Historically, if you look at it from one perspective, that when we see Republicans versus the Democrats, obviously Donald Trump was an ideal Republican.
Point taken.
And when you talk about the Democrats, they have always had a tilt in the past towards the Indians, and that's a reality, accepted by the Democrats itself also. Now, one point is about that. But looking at Joe Biden's previous history when he was the vice president along with the 44th president Barack Obama. Now, what we witnessed at that time, that he always believed in certain areas like human rights in Kashmir. He has spoken about that very, very, very clearly. He's also talked about the relationship between the two countries and the emerging scenarios. And obviously now, I don't think the overall foreign policy of the United States of America is going to change for India. But there will be certain areas where I think Joe Biden is definitely going to talk to the Indians, for that matter, when you talk about the current situation in Kashmir. So let's start off from that, from the human rights perspective, sir. Whatever is going on in Kashmir as we speak, I mean, it's unbelievable, especially post the abrogation of the Article 370 and 35A, where the special status of the Kashmiris was snatched by the Indian government. Now, do you see any difference in the future, sir, post 20th of January 2021?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Faisal bhai, this is a very pertinent issue. And let me tell you in very clear terms that Donald Trump was an introvert who gave the phenomenon or the slogan to the American people, America first. He gave up on multilateralism. He gave up totally, completely, absolutely on United Nations. He abandoned European Union. He was an isolationist, and he was trying to use arm twisting or brute military force to solve problems. With Biden, we have a friend of Pakistan at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the address for White House. He was the main architect back in 2010 of the Kerry-Lugar bill.
Yeah.
According to that, we got that $1.5 billion per year civilian aid to the Pakistani people. He played a pivotal role. Moreover, I have seen Biden as a person who would engage in discussions, political dialogue, and with integrating the foreign policy of America with the demographics of the domestic politics.
Okay.
He will not overrule the domestic scenario and try to impose American solution on the problem. Now with India's abrogation of Article 370 and 35 alpha, which was given in from 1948 as a cover, a shame cover to the Indian occupation of Indian occupied Kashmir, what you need to understand, what we need to impress upon the international community is that democratic government did not have a very tilt towards India. Rather, this Narendra Modi was on the watch list who could not even enter United States of America post becoming the Prime Minister. On the day of becoming Prime Minister of India, he was removed from that, like we have the exit control list. He was allowed to enter America. His name was taken off that reserve passengers list.
Despite the fact that he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time.
For about 11 years, he was the Chief Minister, but he was put on that. So Democrats, it is not a matter of Democrats or Republicans or Conservative Party or Liberal Party or of European Union. This, you just have to be a human being. That 10 million people are caged up for the past 2 years, and a country which quote unquote calls itself secular, a country which calls itself the largest quote unquote democracy on the face of the earth. It has made a mockery of itself that it does not allow dissent, it does not allow freedom of expression, it does not allow the implementation of United Nations Security Council resolutions, it does not allow in one single day even a person who was, like we had a cricket match today and Fawad scored 100. So some people who have waved the Pakistani flag at the Lal Chowk, you know, the Srinagar center, they have been booked for sedition just because they were supporting Pakistani team. So this is the amount of repression, barbarism, totalitarianism, absolutism which India has enacted in Kashmir. And I wish, I pray that the American people will rise up to the time, like American government enacted a policy in Vietnam, but the people rose up against that. So I hope, I wish and I pray that in Biden we have a friend of Pakistan, a friend of humanity, a friend of human rights, a person who would voice his dissent with the Indians, not allowing even international observers inside Kashmir.
Look what happened to the military observers who were in...
Only few days back.
Exactly, about few days back, and they were there and they were fired upon.
Fired upon deliberately, because every movement of international observers, Unimog group which is deployed along the line of actual control and line of control, they have been clearly told by the United Nations observers in the Indian occupied Kashmir that we are going to the border areas to see the...
And sir, that huge jeep, white jeep with a huge U and N, I mean, that's so visible. I mean,
And
can't you tell, I mean, you know...
in broad daylight. That was not doing in some camouflaged
So that was a
military.
deliberate attempt to sort of, you know, that was like a message by the Indians that, hey, listen, don't come here, don't even come close to this area. We don't like that.
Sir, just think about it that about 1 month ago, I'll share the pictures with you, Faisal bhai. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do it before, that we were having a political gathering in Neelam.
In Neelam, okay.
Neelam, and this was a district, and our party's leadership and everybody was there, and there was a very festive mood that after the before the snowfall we were having some activities, and then the roads would close. And on that public congregation with about 5,000-7,000 PTI workers were there, and Indian Army resorted to firing, and our Deputy Secretary General died. I'll give you the name and then show you the dead bodies, pictures of the dead bodies. That person was fired upon by the Indians.
Just imagine.
Just imagine the repression of a country that politically...
This is purely frustration. This
Point.
is purely frustration. And let me put this question to Shahid M.J. Kiani Sahab. Kiani Sahab, there is this story. Now, as we all know that this Indian agency, NIA, the special court has accepted the fabricated case against Asia Andarabi. Now, let me tell you also further, special court ordered NIA to prepare charge sheet of sedition, waging war against India, and terror funding against Asia Andarabi. And now we all know that NIA is a coercive tool to suppress the voice of the pro-freedom Kashmiri fighters. And I'm not only talking about Asia Andarabi. There's a long list. You talk about Shabir Ahmed Shah, you talk about Yasin Malik, you talk about Musarrat Alam Bhatt, you talk about Muhammad Ashraf Sehalsa. And you know, now under the draconian law of the Indians, I mean, these people are behind the bars and nothing is being done. Look at their condition, their physical condition, their mental health, so and so. Your take on that, sir? Kiani Sahab.
Call her a terrorist. That is the problem, that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. That is the reason that there has not been a unanimity globally on describing a terrorist. So, but then I'm not surprised. Since 1989 till today, things have, you know, things have changed for the worst. And in 2019, you know, in August, the Indian government, I think, blundered by having changed the whole dimension of the Kashmir dispute by making it a by deleting that article 370. And you know what has happened is that while the Indians did, I just wanted to share with you, well, by the Indians took into account only two parties. They said the Kashmiri themselves, the Indian occupied Kashmir people, Pakistan. They didn't realize that China also is part and parcel of this issue. And you know it, how they blundered, and in the Ladakh, the standoff, which India, I would say, regretfully got another bloody nose after 1962. So they miscalculated. So here the lady, Ms. Andrabi, has been fighting against the Indian occupied forces for the last many decades. So I'm not surprised what they have done. But I can tell you one thing. All the leaders, names of the leaders which you have given, they are very courageous people who have, you know, under very difficult circumstances, standing up to their rights and keeping the globe aware of what's happening in the Indian occupied Kashmir. And once you were talking about the attack on the PTI workers, or the attack on the UN Unimogib, these officers. So I'm a bit surprised is that why hasn't the Secretary General of the United Nations taken note of it? Why hasn't he sent a team to look into this attack? Because this is something which has been mandated by the United Nations. The Secretary General should have taken note of it. Rather, the Security Council should have taken note of it, because it is mandated by the United Nations to monitor what happens on LOC. Every day, every single day, there is a violation of the LOC. Okay, if the United Nations doesn't take notice of it,
Sir, during
at least should take note of their own troops being targeted. And if they would have been killed, I don't know what was about to have happened. So when will the conscious United Nations wake up? I have no idea.
And interestingly, sir, when you talk about the LOC violations, Ambassador Saab, more than 3,050 violations during this year. Just imagine.
Absolutely. I fully agree with you. But this is what is happening, meaning the global politics is such where the bigger powers ignore the violations by India just because of what the commercial and other political development which have been taking place in the last 1 year or 2 years, and they tend to ignore what India is doing. And what are they waiting for? Are they waiting for a big, more serious crisis to erupt, and then they will start running and to do some firefighting? This is very sad, very unfortunate what's happening.
Now, Ambassador, a very important point, and that is about, whenever we talk about the Indian atrocities in Kashmir, or whatever they're doing on the LOC and the working boundary, now we have prepared a dossier in which we have claimed that the Indians are using the Afghan soil to destabilize Pakistan. Whether you talk about Balochistan, and we have caught their spies here. We have been able to get a lot of info out of them, and then we presented those dossiers. Now, don't you think this is the right time? Once the US administration is going to change, things would definitely be a little different. I'm not saying there's going to be a U-turn in the US policy towards India or towards Pakistan, but what I'm saying is there's going to be some sort of a balance once Joe Biden comes into power. Do you see any major change between Pakistan and India's relationships once Joe Biden is in power, and maybe he's going to push for human rights violations or something of that sort? Your take, Kyani sir?
Please try to understand. First of all, we'll have to be a little more practical. The first thing Joe Biden has to do is to focus domestically, because what Trump has left to be honest, as they call in English, political garbage. He has to focus on that. And then the COVID challenges in which quite a number of people have already died, and that's a sub. And then you start the focus. Naturally speaking, Pakistan-India relations is one issue on the global agenda for the last many decades. And what he's going to do, I think the focus would also be on us and on India. India's the violation of the rights of the Kashmiris is will be on the top of the agenda because Joe Biden, who has decades of experience in foreign relations and has quite a grip on Pakistan-India relations. He has been instrumental in the passing of the Lugar bill, and he has been in contact with our leaders, both in our leaders and in India. So I would say that he would be. My own opinion is that two, three issues will be on the top of the agenda. One is China, the relations with China, then Pakistan-India relations, and Iran. These are three issues, all three in the same region. What he is going to do, I have no idea. But my own gut feeling is that he may send a senior State Department official on which he trusts to find out as to what can be done about it. But one thing, please try to understand: the whatever is happening in Pakistan domestically, the political developments that are taking place in Pakistan would also be taken into account by the Biden government, by the Biden administration. He cannot ignore what's happening. So I think what we have to do also is, while India will be under focus because of human rights violation, the issues of minorities in India, this is something which India cannot ignore. And then what is happening here, I think we also need to put our house in order. We have to show united face if we want the United States to help us out. We are not only looking for United States to help us, but we are also looking towards United States in our development issues, in our trade issues. These are things which are extremely important to Pakistan in the next for the next 1 decade.
Well said, sir. Now, Naseem sir, when you talk about the new alignments, obviously the Indians have been very close to the Russians. Now it seems that there's a switch towards the Western countries. They've always dependent as far as the military equipment or hardware is concerned.
True.
On the European countries, France in particular, and Russia in general. Now, this shift towards the Americans, they have offered them drones, they have offered them technology, and they have offered them everything. Starting from you talk about Beaker. Prior to that, you talk about intelligence sharing, you talk about the sharing of the bases, you talk about manufacturing the American jets
in India.
In India, make in India. That's what they want, and so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, India has a big economy, whether we like it or we don't. India is a much larger country. It has a huge force and everything. And now, unfortunately, because India was surrounded by smaller countries like Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Maldives, so on and so forth. And their attitude was very aggressive, very hostile towards those. But when it comes to Pakistan, we always gave them resistance. But now India is surrounded by two nuclear powers. One is China and one is Pakistan. And we all know the kind of relationship between all these countries. Pakistan is a strategic partner of China, whereas Indians, they are looking forward either towards Quad for their help, towards Australia, Japan and USA, or the kind of strength the Americans have promised them to give and to look after the affairs in the Indian Ocean and so on and so forth. Now, the blue waters, they really matter. As per the Chinese philosophers, they say whosoever controls the Indian Ocean controls the world. This is the trade route. This is the oil route, basically. So now the point is, sir, that looking at that kind of an equation, don't you think that the Western world is going to make sure that Pakistan and China are isolated? Whether you talk about CPEC or OBOR in general. I mean, they've opposed it.
Okay.
I mean, looking at that kind of a scenario, sir, do you think the relationship between Pakistan and India is not going to improve? It is going to get eroded further, I would say.
Faisal bhai, we need to allow this to sink in our heads and the international community that whatever is being projected on the world media is gathering of fake news, which has been certified not by you, by us, Pakistani media, but by European Union and the Western media sources. Okay, Pakistan has its
Look at the latest development in this regard.
absolutely. Just look at
These fake sites and all.
everything. Then I can highlight 100 things other than that. I recall I was a youngster in Islamabad, and you will find it very comical and hysterical that a country with a population of 1 billion people can stoop so below. I went to Holiday Inn Hotel one day, and for your readers and listeners, after that there was a press conference by some mujahideen over there about some Indian atrocities, murders, killing, raping, looting, plundering, fire, arson conducted in certain villages, and they showed their examples through Associated Press, Interfax, and all the international media was present over there. At that time, because they had some damning evidence with videos. That is way back, I remember, in 1994. That day, a video came that a person, an ISI brigadier, had conducted that press conference over there. That person's name was shown. His name is Yunus. He is from Kashmir. And later on, he was shown by Holiday Inn Hotel that person, because he was wearing a suit, he was labeled as an ISI brigadier. He was a waiter in that hotel for the past 15 years. And Associated Press, AP's resident editor in Pakistan, was labeled as a major of ISI who was financing and giving notes to everybody. This is the amount of lies, deceit, and groundless facts.
So this is a very important part. That's called propaganda news.
Fifth generation.
So exactly, this is a part of the fifth generation warfare, the hybrid warfare, as they call it.
Now, let me very clearly, America has always been saying that they rely upon integration. So I don't see the problem with CPAC. CPAC is integrating. We have invited India, for clarity, that India, God bless you, we have invited India to join us in CPAC. We have invited Iran. Now, please understand that saying that Pakistan might have a smaller economy or a smaller military or a smaller footprint on the global political landscape, that is not true, sir. We have a significant presence, and India has problems with not Pakistan, let alone Pakistan. Leave. India's Prime Minister was murdered by a Sri Lankan organization, Rajiv Gandhi. He was blown up. India
While presenting that book here, I remember.
Remember, India has had military coups inside Maldives, a small country with about 50,000 people. India does not
They
allow.
supported the Tamil Tigers. What they did in Bangladesh, how they sort of pressurized the Bhutanian government, or Nepal for that
If
matter.
Nepal is not allowed to buy weapons from anybody, and if Nepal's Prime Minister, upon taking office, goes to another country other than India, he is labeled as a rogue Prime Minister and he is destabilized.
Don't you remember when the Indian Defense Minister, before visiting Pakistan, went to Nepal? So what does that say? Tell you?
Now what has happened is that they were trying to push around, they were trying to pressurize all the smaller neighbors. Pakistan, with they had a problem. What happened is that now they have messed up with China. China has never ever tried to infringe upon the sovereignty of any sovereign nation. We remember we had border disputes with China, but they were amicably settled between the Pakistani government and the government of Mao Zedong. They sat down, they had a very honorable, dignified solution. Give and take was there, and we have a peaceful border with China. This is almost comical that India does not have a border with China, 3,000 kilometers, and they do not have a like between India and Pakistan. We have a line of control. They don't even have a line of control. But
we have working boundary. We have got line of
control and international border.
And the international border. They have this line of actual
control.
I mean, which doesn't, it doesn't signify that this is their area and this is there. I mean, it was just a verbal kind of
thing.
Engagement.
Now this unfortunate Indian aggression towards its neighbors is received by everybody in the world. Everybody knows that India has problems.
But the kind of future which I see for India primarily, I mean, no matter how much support they get from the Western world, what sort of weapons they buy in the future, I'm not concerned about that. But I think India is going to get isolated. At the end of the day, sir, whether you talk about the regional integration, they'll be, left behind. The private sector of India really wants to be a part of OBOR, but the government is opposing it. You talk about the Indian support from the US or the European Union for that matter, that's going to be limited because at the end of the day, they are also looking at other countries as huge markets like China for that matter, Central Asian states in the future,
Absolutely.
Middle East for that matter, but things have changed. So we have also been joined in by Qamar Cheema Saab, another expert on the Indian affairs. Cheema Saab, Assalamu Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, Faisal Saab.
Chima Saab, thank you so much for taking out the time and talking to PDB World. Now, let me put a very straightforward question to you. How you see the relationship between Pakistan and India once Joe Biden is going to be in power, and we are talking about the year 2021. 2020 was a very hostile kind of a year as far as these two countries are concerned, and even prior to that, 2019, when they claimed that they had a surgical strike, and then we went after them and we taught them a lesson, and you know what happened after that. Let's talk about 2021. Are you optimistic, or do you think things are going to get worse?
Well, I think there are two, three angles to see this India-US relations, how things can unfold. First one is that the strategic cooperation which the Indians and the Americans have, and that cooperation lies in that strategic partnership among the institutional framework of both the countries, like 2+2 dialogue, and since 2005, the Indo-US nuclear deal started. Since then, the Americans have realized we need to be partner with India, one thing. And secondly, you know, this Indo-Pacific region is getting more important globally, and all the great powers believe that we should not let China to have mini multilateralism. This mini multilateralism by China, they believe we need to prop up India for this. So these are things. Then Americans believe that India is a big market. That is another thing. But I think the important thing which the Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, which belong to the Democrat Party, and they believe on these ideas or this structure and the framework which has been laid down by the shared values on which this entire global system operates. So I think what Pakistan can do is that we can request and we can talk to the American administration that very shared values, this global community shares. We need to look that is India following those that framework, because all what we can do is that we have to wake up global community on the moral grounds which have been set in 1945. That when
But
the
sir,
sovereign
you
state
have to
operates.
wake up that global community, Chima Saab, but let's talk about the realities also. I mean, let's talk about the ground realities. That's what exactly I mean. I mean, waking up the global community or talking about ethics, values, or morals for that matter. Don't you think, I mean, they do not actually exist in today's politics or today's diplomacy?
Well, I think you are absolutely right. We don't have, when we teach politics and we talk politics, we say that there is no morality and there is only self-help and survival in this international system. But I think what is the shared platform which we can have if we have to outmaneuver India? Because we don't have that big market. We don't have that billions of dollars to buy the American and the European products. So I think what we have in our mind and what we have with us, we only have to operate around that. So we have to go to that framework which I have spoken, that is moral, global, institutional, legal, institutionalized framework. That is where I think Pakistan can speak to the such kind of leadership globally, which is coming, like Biden and Kamala Harris. So Indians have a deep penetration in the United States, and Americans don't want to ignore India at all. So, and above all, we need to understand that Pakistan is no more, Americans are no more dependent on Pakistan wholly like they were 5 years ago or 3 years ago, or the way the Trump administration has dealt with, they put us in the FATF, and these 4 years have just spent. So I think what Pakistan can do is that in 2017, when Trump came, White House didn't know about Pakistan. But this White House is much better knowing Pakistan, because the president has himself dealt with Pakistan. He has visited Pakistan. And above all, the military to military cooperation between Pakistan and America is so deep and so productive that the Pentagon will always give a positive outlook of Pakistan-America relations. But Faisal Saab, what we need to understand is that we just don't stand anywhere when it comes to India, because they are too much into it. But all what we can do is that along with the China, the Americans are dealing with the Chinese because what matters for them is money, business, the bilateral economic deals. It doesn't matter who are you,
Because
which color
Chima
you
Saab,
are.
that's the name of the game. That's the reality, unfortunately. Good, bad or ugly, but that's the way it is.
yes, that is the reality, and this is where I'm saying that self-help and survival is there. So what I believe is that one thing is good in Pakistan. We have fought with this fight against terrorism. We are moving on track of economic security, which we call as a non-traditional security. And in coming 20 years, 15 years, all what we have to do is we need to invest heavily on economy and on comprehensive growth, which Chinese say. This is what we need to understand from China. The Chinese believe in common security and comprehensive growth. And that we can achieve only if we have this economic stability, political stability. And that's how we can talk about India at global capitals. That is how our voice will be heard.
All right. Now, coming to you, Ambassador Saab, we have been hearing this from none other than the Prime Minister and so many other senior ministers that India is planning for a false flag operation. Now, they also claimed 2 years ago that they did it, and we all know what happened, and we all also witnessed what happened the very next day. Now, talking about that false flag operation, sir, they can, always engineer anything like Pulwama attack for that matter, and they can end up blaming Pakistan. This has been the history, so this is what they have done all the time. Anything that happens, even in Assam, Bihar, or elsewhere, they'll point fingers towards Pakistan. That has been a ritual. Now, looking at this year 2021, sir, if something of that sort happens, Pakistan has responded earlier as well that we will make sure that India would remember if they opt for anything of that sort. What if they do? Where will it lead? Do you think some limited war or conventional war primarily, or when we look at the map that was changed by the Indians, they had put in the Azad Kashmir as well as Gilgit-Baltistan in their area. What is that supposed to mean, sir?
I think we need to just ignore this map making. You make a map and tomorrow say United States part of it. I don't think.
Kyari Saab, I was teaching my son some geography lessons last night, and whenever we Googled Indian map, I was trying to explain him about the issue of Kashmir, sir. On every single international account, I mean, that has been shown as a part of India, unfortunately.
I agree. Well, that is what Kamar Chima was alluding to. You see the Indian influence. What I'm saying is, sir, that when you talk about your question was, I'm sorry, I completely forgot your question.
Sir, primarily that was
Faisal?
about the option of a limited war,
okay.
a conventional war. What if they conduct a false flag operation? What would be our reaction this time?
The whole of 2019 was spent by India saying that they had done such surgical strikes. That is nothing but joke. They even made a movie, Indian movie, on the surgical strikes. They don't realize that surgical strikes by two nuclear states, the United States satellites are watching us 24/7. Look what happened in post-Pulwama. You understand? You know it. That President Trump came out in Hanoi. He was having a one-to-one dialogue with the North Korean leader.
Kim Jong-un, yeah.
And within minutes, he came out and he said, I've instructed my Secretary of State to talk to Pakistan to bring the temperature down. And I remember our Prime Minister was on the television, Imran Khan Saab, saying that if you have any evidence, share with us. And they didn't wait for it. And they got a bloody nose. And I remember they got a bloody nose. My own hunches, they may do something small, but I doubt very much with Joe Biden coming in the White House, he will be the first person, he will be the last person to accept any adventures from India into Pakistan. And these LOC violations, yes, they will continue. They may reduce, but they will continue. But I doubt very much that they will do. Well, the government of Pakistan, the Pakistan army and the political government is not taking any chances and has won globally, has won the big part. That the Indians, to deflect the attention from what's happening in India, they may do that. But I think with Joe Biden coming, I don't think. But one thing I want to add to Joe Biden's coming. One thing, please try to understand that the relationship between United States and India was the spurt came when President Clinton was there. He was a Democrat, and this relationship has been built successfully by the Republican Democrat governments. So it is very difficult to ignore India. They have a global aim of trying to, you see, undermine China, trying to push China. It's not going to work. This standoff in Ladakh between India and China, again India caught a bloody nose. The United States know, even Western big countries know that this is not going to work, but they will continue pushing. For Pakistan, naturally speaking, in an order of priority, India will, in this region, India will come first and we will come second. And once this Afghan issue, which is now, Pakistan played a very positive role in bringing the warring factions together to talk, United States and the Taliban. And now, once this issue is resolved or not resolved, Pakistan's importance will remain. But, you know, just like Pakistan, India on the same plane, I have all my doubts. You see, Stobe Talbot wrote a book many decades back, Engaging India.
Yeah.
And if you read what he has written, you will know that these pages are being unfurled by successive governments. And it's a last thing. It is extremely difficult for any administration to ignore India. Pakistan geopolitical equation has its own importance.
All
No
right.
Afghan solution has been found without Pakistan's positive contribution. So, as you know, everybody is saying that we'll have to make Pakistan domestically strong. The institutions have to be strengthened. The governments have to be strengthened, and economy has to be strengthened so that we also become important in the eyes of the global powers.
All right. Now, Naseem Saab, another important area, and that is about, the current understanding. Now, that is primarily what I really want to ask you is that, Kyani Saab said there is going to be a slight change, not a major shift as far as the US policy towards India is concerned. But yes, having said that, Modi is not going to be given a total free hand. I was, in fact, watching a very recent picture of Narendra Modi in which he has started growing his hair and his beard.
Okay.
And a lot of yogis and all these people, the religious scholars of Hinduism, they have told him to do that actually. And this man is, I would say, when you talk about being superstitious, he is.
True that.
And, if you remember,
Verifiably superstitious, sir.
very superstitious. And the kind of, when he went to pray and he was there in a cave or something like that, nobody else does this. This man, you can't trust. One thing is for sure. This man hates Muslims. That's another reality. Whatever happened in Gujarat when 2,000 people were massacred and the way they were killed on his orders, that's why the Americans did not let him in.
Inside America.
Exactly,
Absolutely.
exactly. Because now things have changed. He is the Prime Minister, that Howdy Modi, that concept, or Namaste Paris, if you remember, sir.
Absolutely.
So these are the things, sir, which people observe and they get stuck in their minds. Because this is something which is very, very, influential in a way. Seeing is believing, as they say. So this kind of a man, you can't trust. And the kind of close associates he has in the form of the External Affairs Minister, whether you talk about Rajnath Singh, or you talk about the Defense Minister, or you talk about the National Security Advisor, Ajit Doval. I mean, there is this caucus of crazy people out there, sir. So, looking at them, looking at the history and the kind of decision they have taken before, and if you make an alignment, sir, future seems to be pretty tricky.
Faisal bhai, I'll just take on what Chima Saab and Ambassador Saab
Go ahead,
said
sir.
before at the
Answer that
minute,
first
okay?
and then my question. Yeah.
So your point was very pertinent that India has global clout. It has a bigger economy. It has a very large market where Western companies can come and sell their products. And because of that, it might infringe upon Pakistan's interest. That was the narrative which India plays everywhere. So let me assure you one thing. My grandfather fought, I'm a son of Kashmir. My grandfather fought in the 1947 Freedom War. My father had served in the armed forces, got shot defending the country, and I have served briefly in the armed forces. Let me assure you, sir, in very clear terms, between us and India, we have a mad phenomenon prevailing, MAD, mutually assured destruction. There is no way on hell, earth, that they will be able to come even 3 to 4 miles within Pakistani territory. This is just something which they are playing for their domestic audience. Pulwama was an orchestrated attack by the Indian intelligence, by the Indian institutions, by the Indian army to get Modi re-elected. That was the only reason. Now, about Howdy Modi or the Namaste Paris phenomenon which you are saying, let me just bring you, sir, you are very well averse because you have a grip on these things, that the farmers in India, they are protesting like hell
Absolutely.
inside Delhi. And India.
And now that protest has grown. I mean, it's not only limited to Punjab or Haryana or down in south. You're talking about Rajasthan area. On the eastern side as well.
Eastern side where they have a very serious problem with communism. Communism in Bengal is a very strong, and when those people rise up, they have got a very huge population which does not, South India and North India do not integrate. They are physically different people. Their dialects are different. Their way of eating
Language,
is different.
culture, ethics, values, everything.
Everything is different. Now, sir, coming to the second part of the point, that probably somehow India might dominate with China containment policy and it might benefit of that. Let me assure you, sir, America is 15,000 kilometers away. China is 5 miles away. China is right in this hot soup. It is
Rather 5 miles inside India.
inside India.
Let's
Let me
put it that way.
That's very well, very nicely said. Sir, brute force, Genghis Khan, Halaku Khan, Kublai Khan, Hitler, Mussolini, this Napoleon, everybody from the Russian czars, everybody tried to use brute force to solve problems. Problems which are generated by the masses, political problems, can never be suppressed by using brute force, or else Genghis Khan's descendants would not have become Muslims. They would have, after crushing the head of the Caliph in Abbasi Sultanate in Baghdad, we would have perished. That is not happening. You have to understand, India can do whatever they do. My father told me once, and I'll share with you, that Pandit Motilal Nehru, Jawaharlal Nehru's father,
Yeah.
after 1947, when India came into existence, sent a delegation of Indians to Spain. And they said that how were Muslims after 800 years of rule extinguished from there? How is Islam removed from that? And how were the Mauricists Muslims, who were called Maurice in Spain, how were they removed? And how could we enact that Inquisition in
India.
Southeast Asia and India and have the subcontinent, rather than becoming a Pakistan and Indian subcontinent, let's make it a Hindu subcontinent. They have been trying to do that for the past 72
So
years.
this idea prevailed way back.
Way back, sir, from that
This
time.
Akhand Bharat concept.
Akhand Bharat concept, and they are entitled to have anything. Okay, let's not discuss Pakistan. As Ambassador Saab had very nicely said, this aggressive posturing by India that we will do false flag operations, we will go aggressive patrolling, we will have reconnaissance flights, this is not going to matter one bit because the masses are not with them. You have to understand that with China and India, they have a very serious problem. The snow has blocked all the passes and access for heavy movement of trucks, movement, artillery, armor, anything that
Look at the temperatures hovering around minus 30
this
degrees.
is just because they are targeting the civilian population so that they are not motivated and mobilized. One last thing, sir, which I would want to point out,
Please.
which Ambassador Saab will agree with me, the difference between India and Pakistan is, like we discussed NIA. Now you discussed Modi's long hairs and beard. There is another Modi in India. His name is YC Modi, and he is the head of NIA, National Investigation Agency.
Yeah.
He is Ajit Dogal Part 2. 10 times more aggressive, 10 times more extremist, 10 times more violent, and 10 times more against Muslims. This person, YC Modi, has been on the chief of NIA since 2017 September. He has passed three and a half years, I guess, in this organization, and the draconian laws they have enacted, forget about what Faisal says, Waqas says, or Ambassador Shahid Kiani says, or Qamar Saab says. Let me assure you, sir, there is a state known as Chhattisgarh inside India.
Yeah.
They have filed a constitutional petition. I will submit the report of that constitutional petition to you after the program, saying that NIA is in violation of Indian constitution. Forget about what we are saying. Indian state, through its chief minister named Chhattisgarh, has filed a case in Indian Supreme Court in 2020 saying that law and order is a state subject under Indian constitution, and NIA is infringing upon state institutions and the constitution, thereby making.
But that's the point, sir. The Indian courts are under such an influence of the Modi government, whether you talk about the Supreme Court or the High Courts, that they would always, give any verdict in their favor. Unfortunately, this is what has happened. Look at the Assia Andrabi's case. That's exactly what I'm saying. They have allowed the NIA to charge her under certain articles.
Sir, this is the dichotomy which you would we need to educate the Pakistani people when they say that we should have people-to-people contact, and perhaps somehow Indians are very peace-loving people, that Supreme Court or High Court of India does not exist in India. NIA has its own NIA courts. According to those courts, in 2018, 6th of July, Assia Andrabi was arrested just because she said that I will carry a Pakistani flag in that Lal Chowk of Srinagar. And with her, she was not the only person. Sir,
She's been charged under terrorism, waging war against India,
sedition,
funding. You just exactly.
And she was arrested with our sister. Let me just say her name, because we focus on Assia Andrabi, Dukhtaran-e-Millat, as you had said in your intro. It was Nahida Nasreen and Sufi Fahim. These were the three ladies who have been arrested. Okay, they were arrested under law, that is understandable. On 6th of July 2018, they were arrested. On 16th, they were transferred to Delhi. And now they are residing in Tihar jail.
Look at which is one of the worst in India.
Worst in India. And look at this lady. She has 2 kids. She has a BSc in biochemistry. She has an MA in Arabic. This Assia Andrabi with 2 kids has not seen her husband for the past 28 years.
Look what has happened to Yasin Malik. I mean, Shabir Shah for that matter. You name it, there's a long list. Now, sir, another important point, Chima Saab, let me come to you on that. In fact, my friend Naseem Saab was saying about the MAD, mutually assured destruction. I think MAD is for Modi, Amit Shah and Doval. And I don't know how come Rajnath Singh is not into it. But my point is, sir, this kind of a crazy mindset that prevails in India would lead to something destructive for sure, sir. I remember General Kiani was the Chief of Army Staff, and I had put this question to him about the aggression from the Indians. That has been there. And he said, you know what, you can always keep 2 things in mind about the intentions of the enemy and the capability of the enemy. Intentions can be changed overnight, and this is what we have witnessed. But the capability of the enemy takes time. But over here, sir, we are seeing that they are buying weapons from left, right and center. And they have very bad intentions towards Pakistan also. And I think India is the only country in the world who has issues with all of its neighbors, all around India. Whether you talk China, Pakistan, Maldives, Sri Lanka, you talk about even Bhutan now. Bhutanese government have been forced to recognize Israel to sort of have that kind of an engagement so that the Israelis can have some sort of a base in Bhutan to put a check on the Chinese. So this is not going to be something as simple as it seems. Could result into any sort of a hostile activity from either side, sir.
Well, Faisal Sahab, I think this is a very interesting question. That why on earth the world cannot understand that a Hindu religiously motivated nationalist government who is having the nuclear codes in the hand, and for them winning the elections is so necessary that they can even go on the brink of the war with Pakistan. So you need to unfold this mindset to the international community that religiously motivated Hindu nationalists in New Delhi are threat to peace. And we need to link that how this religion comes in. You were talking about the stereotypes. You were talking about that the beard, the hair, and how Narendra Modi is religiously motivated person who believes that every aspect of his governance policy, his political idea, and his foreign policy should come from religion. So I think the world has been targeting Pakistan. Oh, look, these Islamists have the nuclear codes in hand, and the Islamists will take the nuclear bomb. The world has realized how much Pakistan is serious when it comes to its national security, and how we have dealt peacefully and beautifully our nuclear assets. And the world accept that. We need to make the world understand that we have these religious fanatics on our eastern border who have the nuclear codes, and the entire leadership, be it the Rajnath Singh, be it the Amit Shah, be it the Prime Minister Modi or the Doval, they all are religiously motivated people, and they have everything in their hand which could be catastrophic.
All right. Last quick comment, 30 seconds comment from you, Ambassador Saab. Now the dirty role of the Indians that has been exposed in Afghanistan. Pakistan has done whatever we could have, and it's not that we really need some sort of an appreciation from the Western world, but they do recognize the importance of Pakistan. Now, we have done whatever we could have in order to bring in peace in Afghanistan, but sir, India has been playing a very, very negative role. I mean, you name it and they have done it. Anything that could go wrong, they would always support that. Quick comment on that, sir. Do you think Pakistan has won that war of the Indian influence in Afghanistan?
The thing is, I wrote on one of my research papers just about 2 years back, and I said that whenever Pakistan and India would be talking, sitting across the table, the elephant in the room is Afghanistan. Both the countries will have to come to terms with it. Yes, Afghanistan, if peace returns to Afghanistan, with Taliban being one of the senior coalition partners, India will be the biggest loser. And that is the reason that India keeps on creating problems inside Afghanistan. And on the borders, you just see what's happened. The loss of life of 7 FC soldiers is all being done at the behest of Indians, and unfortunately maybe some rogue elements in Afghanistan. So we have to remain attentive. We have to remain on guard against such adventurous policies of India.
All right.
So let's hope.
All right, Kyari Saab, thank you
things turn
very
out
much,
to
sir. It was a pleasure having you. Cheema Saab, thank you so much for your time. Naseem Saab, it was a pleasure having you, sir. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you again. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.